Hello, 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 and thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Soraya Marshall Wright. Welcome to The World According to Soraya. Okay, so by now it's probably no secret to you that in my prior life I worked for the Social Security Administration, and if it was, now it's not. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why your disability claims keep getting denied. Now, call me biased, but I'd like to think that I know and understand the rules a little bit better than most. So I'm a little bit selective. Actually, I'm fairly selective on the cases that I choose to accept. So my goal today is to help those who have been unsuccessful understand why they've been unsuccessful and perhaps what they need to do to be successful in the future. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, there are a few myths that I'd like to address. Number one, it's important that you understand that it is totally untrue that every single person gets denied the first time they apply. Completely untrue. I have personally known people who have been approved within days or weeks. It totally depends on the evidence that you present to support your claim. Number two, there's no secret sauce, there's no secret formula, and an attorney, myself included, can't necessarily get you approved. Again, it totally depends on the evidence that you have available to support your claim. So let's go through the programs under the Social Security umbrella. First, you have to know that there are two programs that fall under the Social Security disability umbrella. The first is what most people refer to as Social Security disability or regular disability. That actually falls under the Retirement Survivors and Disability Insurance Program. Keyword here is insurance. We'll come back to that shortly. The second program is called Supplemental Security Income or SSI. Now, both of these programs require you to meet the general rule. What is the general rule? Well, to be eligible, you have to have a condition that prevents you from performing any type of substantial work. It's important that you know that this is not a temporary program. So, sorry, pregnancy doesn't count. This condition has to be something that prevents you from performing substantial work for at least 12 months or longer. Now, substantial work is also not defined by heavy lifting. What do I mean by that? You could have someone doing desk work, performing substantial work, and someone doing construction who's not. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind. Now, where most people mess up is that they have a condition and fail to apply timely, or they have a condition and fail to gather the necessary evidence to support it. So let's talk about the first one. The best way really to explain this one is to give you an example. Say, for instance, I became disabled at 35. I decided not to file. My kids were relatively young at the time, and my spouse had pretty good income, so we didn't really need to file for Social Security. Plus, I'm pretty young. I'm not exactly sure if I'll be out of work forever, and I didn't necessarily want to be labeled, so I didn't apply. I continued to push through everyday life, took care of my children, and 15 years go by and suddenly I'm 50 and I'm like, holy smokes, I can't go back to work. I need to apply for Social Security disability. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late, at least as far as Social Security disability is concerned. Remember the word that I said earlier that we're going to harp on? Insurance. Just like your retirement benefits are subject to an age limit, disability is more or less subject to a time frame. So the idea is that after you become disabled, you'll apply for benefits within a reasonable amount of time. So if you wait longer than 5 years to apply, you may no longer qualify because you would no longer be insured. Now, the SSI or Supplemental Security Income Program is a needs-based program. So in addition to meeting the criteria under the general rule, that being that you are disabled and unable to perform substantial work for 12 months or longer, or of course, the condition could be a condition that's going to be permanent or result in your death. You also have to show that you have limited income and resources. So what does that mean? If you have no money in the bank, but you have 5 acres of land in Ohio and another 2 acres in Florida and another 15 acres that someone left you elsewhere, those are resources that you could tap into that would make you ineligible for SSI, or supplemental security income. So it's very important that you understand that both of these programs are based on medical evidence. They are medical decisions. So you have to have evidence to support it. Of course, your allegation will be taken into account. What other people who have witnessed your disabling conditions have to say about you and how it affects you, that will also be taken into account. But ultimately, that alone is not going to get you approved. You have to have medical information, medical evidence that will support your claim. So even if your grandma goes in there and gives a statement and says you've been disabled all your life, that's not sufficient. If you've been treating yourself at home and you've never been to a doctor, but you do have a disabling condition, that's not sufficient. If you go into the Social Security office and act completely crazy and act like you're hearing voices right then and there, that may be documented, but it may not be sufficient. So, in order to be eligible for benefits under either Social Security Disability or SSI, number one, your condition has to be disabling and you cannot be performing substantial work. Now, I've told you that substantial work is not defined by heavy lifting, but there is a number, a dollar amount that's attached to substantial gainful activity or substantial work. That number changes on a yearly basis, so you will want to check with the agency website, socialsecurity.gov, to figure out which rules apply to you. Also, remember that your medical evidence has to support whatever it is that you're alleging. So, if you didn't know that your allegation alone will not support a claim for Social Security Disability or SSI, now you know. See you next time.